But let's face it, your boy McCallman, he is not. This guy doesn't have much range in this song at all. But there
Oh,
is,
that's what he was going for.
yeah, I could tell he was really trying, but he was just coming up short. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's John and Andy, and we are here to discuss some music. Specifically, though, I don't know what, though you probably do because it's in the title of the video, but John is about to drop it on me. John, what have you got me listening to today, my friend?
So the band is called Sad Lovers and Giants.
Okay.
Yeah. And the track is called 50/50.
All right. So Sad Lovers or Giants 50-50 on that. Yeah, I've never heard of this band. That probably comes as no surprise to you whatsoever,
Wow.
judging by
What
my
fucking
reaction.
rock have you been living under? Um,
Oh man. Interesting name though. So yeah, and an interesting track title to the track as well. Let me go off and give this a listen and I'll come back and let you know what I made of it.
Okie dokie.
Mm. All right. Yeah, this is fun. This is fun. I mean, we're right off to the races with this sort of clipped and manic guitar part. Then you get these sort of like insistent kind of, there's only a few of them, but these insistent chord strikes on the guitar that kind of usher us into this very almost ska like the way the horns are popping everywhere. Uh, but a little bit, I don't know, not to say the ska is not danceable. People skank to that all the time, but there's just more of this, I don't know, movement to this, maybe constant movement to this, and a little less erratic. But yeah, I love it. It's instantly making me bang my shoulders around, even though you know this is something I would normally listen to or seek out. But I'm liking everything I'm hearing to this point. It's so catchy. This is I can already tell this bit that they're playing right now is an earworm. I'm going to be, humming this in my head for the next couple of weeks at least. Yeah, let's take this back a bit. Goes deeper like that. Oh wow. I didn't know we were going to get lyrics of this. I thought for sure this is going to be another one of John's quirky instrumentals that, grow on me instantly. Um, we'll see where it goes from here. That sounded like it was going to be perhaps one of my pet peeves, which is like this spoken word type delivery. But we'll see where it goes. It might end up, growing on me like the song already has. Um, that whole motif, the horn bit, and how it changes and everything, all of it. You could recast that in like this sort of 8-bit early Nintendo kind of sound to it, like re recast it in that light, and reproduce it with, that kind of sound to it, and it would sound like I just saved the princess or beat a boss in some Nintendo game in the 80s. It just has that sort of triumphant, moving sound to it. That's only something an 80s kid would say, but yeah, that definitely had that kind of quality and sound to it, which might be playing into why I like it so much. But yeah, let's take this back just a couple seconds and see what your man sounds like, and I will try to give him the benefit of the doubt and get over my own, qualms about vocal delivery.
Metropolises are incineration. All angel too much radiation.
I like this sustained sections. Bass or guitar.
50-50. 50-50. 50-50. The toss of a coin. Which way they gonna go?
That clipped phase guitar is great.
50-50. 50-50. The toss of a coin. Which way they gonna go?
Wait, the way he just said spectacular there and what the guitar was doing, they almost sounded the same, and it's really, really quite nice. I want to take that back. That was really cool. Also, dark ass lyrics. Spectacular. Fool me once. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that actually. Um, your man's got all the vocal range of a dial tone, but that doesn't really take away from it actually, given the messaging of it, and sort of how dour subject matter is that he's discussing. It works. It's also really interesting how it works as a strong juxtaposition to this kind of buoyant melody to that earwormy bit, and just the song musically as a whole. It has more of a jaunty, danceable nature to it, while he is talking about these really dire circumstances. I mean, this sounds like life in the nuclear age. You know what I mean? You've got a 50-50 shot, a flip of the coin of, dying of natural causes or being blown off the face of the fucking earth. And that kind of sounds like, with each of these little comparisons he did throughout the songs, what he's underscoring. So yeah, really, really fun, kind of counterintuitive, um, you know, sounds that we have going on here. The literal content of his lyrics versus this, dance and move around feel of the music, which I've said before in other videos. I love when there's that kind of odd pairing, because there's, I don't know, it's kind of ironic, right? And maybe there's some like, maybe he's underscoring that the music is symbolic of how society, copes with this or deals with it or is just overlooks it, and doesn't focus on it and just continues to move like it's, I don't know. I think of the Roaring Twenties and how people just were going around drinking and having a good time, and then all of a sudden, boom, reality sets in. Too many people were having too much fun, and with other people's money, and everything just fell through. There is that kind of like, let's just forget about it and party and have a good time, while he's telling us these, awful, consequences that we're, hanging on the knife's edge of. Which way do we fall? Yeah, really cool, interesting stuff. I like this song a lot. Didn't know that I would, initially. I found it more quirky than lovable, but now I find it lovable because of its quirkiness. So, such is life. That's how things go. Yeah, let's get back to John and learn more about these guys and this track.
Christopher Lillicrap is back. So you've had a go at the old 50/50 by Sad Lovers and Giants, also known by their initials as Slag. You slag, shat it. Oh, come over all Regan and Carter there. Anyway, what were your thoughts?
I enjoyed this track a lot, much to my own surprise. So we're off to the races with some like clipped and manic guitar notes entering and flying about before some kind of insistent chord strikes punctuate that bit and segue us into from the intro into the song proper. And boy, howdy, is this a lot of fun. This jaunty, almost ska-like melody that is underscored by like horn pops, sweeps the listener up and swirls them around the room. This is an earworm. This whole bit, and there's kind of two bits to the horn bit because it goes into a deeper register about halfway through this sort of motif. But I loved it all, and I'm going to be humming that melody in my head for probably weeks to come. So by second 32, the bit evolves into a slightly darker sound with deeper sounding horns, as I mentioned, and more developed beat beneath it, though it doesn't sacrifice its rhythmic movement in any way. And we are still moving and grooving at this point. I'm moving my shoulders against my own will at this point. And this is going to sound silly, but I can imagine this melody being recast in more of a like rudimentary 8-bit light and fitting perfectly into some sort of montage in an early Nintendo game. Like at some triumphant point in the game, you just saved the princess or beat an end boss, and this song like plays in that sort of 8-bitty type sound. It just made me laugh. And it also underscores what a child of the 80s I am. Oh shit, well, color me shocked, it actually has vocals. I thought that this was just going to be this quirky little instrumental, as we progress throughout the song. But yeah, it's equipped with lyrics and all. How about it? And yes, your man has that stereotypical spoken word delivery that has about as much range as a dial tone. And yet it does work in this song for whatever reason. And I don't mind it. But let's face it, your boy McCallman, he is not. This guy doesn't have much range in this song at all. But
That's what he was going for.
yeah, I could tell he was really trying, but he was just coming up short. But yeah, there is this interesting chugging yet phasing sound, like this little motif beneath his vocals at one point, and I enjoyed that bit. As this verse wraps up, with him questioning which way the tossed coin will go, we are reintroduced to that charming bit from before the verse, the horns and everything. And within that bit, there's featured this subtle little descending bass run that kind of caught my ear, and I liked that a lot. Excellent touch. So the second verse begins, and again he sings over these sustained synth chords that resonate, and are accompanied by that phaser pedal affected guitar motif. There's a bit around the 232 mark where your man delivers the line, "A spectacular show." And just as he's singing that bit, there is this little clipped guitar motif that runs in a similar rhythmic pattern as his voice. And for just a fleeting second, there is some lovely synergy between these two. And I really liked that bit a lot. And as simple and as temporary as it was one of my favorite little features within the song. We get treated to another chorus, and then they ride that lovely earwormy horn forward bit of the song all the way till the end. Though at one point there are these like stuttered drum fill bits that kind of like fool me once, shame on, because they do it twice. They do it and then proceed, and then they do it again at pretty much the end. I mean, they do it and then they wrap it up with a little bit of notation. But yeah, I really liked that a lot. Musically, this was fun and movement inspiring with its melody and jaunty rhythms. But things aren't always as they appear on the surface, because coupled with that are some pretty dire lyrics that seem to equate the possibility of dying from nuclear warfare or dying from a natural cause to the flip of a coin. He consistently draws up lyrical either or scenarios that hold one up against the other. For example, natural causes or incineration, old age or too much radiation, natural causes, again, natural causes or incineration, burial or liquidation. So yeah, very interesting that he's jumping. I think there's a slow death or instant termination is another one. And it's like, neither, thank you. But yeah, not the sunniest of forecasts, if you ask me. But hey, thems were the times, and sadly, thems remain the times. And yeah, despite all of the dour outlook and gloomy prognostication, I really enjoyed the number a lot. And I've said this before, I love when a song has musically this one mood to it, while lyrically it's completely counterintuitive, in sort of this odd juxtaposition. So yeah, it fit that bill. I liked it. It's got earworm qualities. I liked it. And despite mostly not liking this style of vocal delivery, because of the dynamic between the music style and the vocal style, it worked in this really odd way for me. So I loved the song. It was really good. This is probably my favorite of the day.
Yeah, great. This is an odd little number on the
Yes, it is.
on the hinterlands of taste. This sort of weaves along the boundary between what I find acceptable and what I don't, and it just stays within. Yeah, this is a sort of accident song, this melange of things that only would happen in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Hence the vocal style. Like every third band sounded just like this in terms of the vocal quality, and probably every third band had an anti-nuclear war song or something to do with the threat of nuclear war.
Hence my "Dems were the times" thing, because I could tell this came from like end of the Cold War era type, period. So it's got that written.
I mean, and honestly, this song isn't even a finished song. This is a demo, which thanks to some tomfoolery and trickery digitally later on, they've sort of cleaned it up. So it's only the sort of beginnings, well, kind of beginnings of a song. But anyway, into Sad Lovers and Giants. So they're from Watford, England, and they formed in 1980. They have been described as post-punk, gothic rock, neo-psychedelia, and folk rock. Personnel, which does change over the years, but at this point when this was done, is Garth Allard on vocals, Cliff Silver on bass. These are all great names. Tristan Garrel Funk on guitar. It's hyphenated as well, just so you know. David Wood. I mean, he's really let everyone down there. Keyboards and sax, and Nigel Pollard drums, and percussion. And on this track also, I think Cliff Silver took a little 10-minute fag break, and Steve Carter played bass on this track for some reason. So they released a couple of EPs, and then their studio debut album, Epic Garden Music, in 1982. It reached number 21 in the UK independence charts, and it's seen as a bit of an underground classic. AllMusic said, with a delicious blend of gloomy guitar and bass infused with punch and verb that recalls early Cure, and a sophisticated wordplay that was uniquely their own, the quintet split the songs between seaside and countryside, between earth and air, and inflected a little of each into the music. Sorely overlooked outside England, Sad Lovers and Giants may have been lost in the wake of the post-punk generation's heroes, but they haven't been forgotten. They remain a small pearl, a gem of the ocean that birthed them. During this initial period as well, they also recorded a John Peel session for the BBC. And a live concert for Radio Netherlands worldwide in 1983, which was released as an album 3 years later called Total Sound, which has got a very sort of like European sounding title for an album. They supported The Sound, one of my favorite bands from the early 80s, in London on the actual day that Epic Garden Music entered the charts. So yeah, doing this touring, European interest grew in the band, very similar to The Sound, who couldn't really get arrested in the UK, but sort of got this Dutch following as well. And then 83 saw their second album, Feeding the Flame, which is again seen as a bit of an underground classic. They toured Germany, Netherlands, and got this dedicated fan base. Tensions within the band caused a split, with Garel Funk and Pollard leaving to form the Snake Cause. During hiatus, their label Midnight Music released the In the Breeze collection in 1984, which includes some previously unrelated tracks, live cuts, and that aforementioned Peel session. This is from said album. It's a really interesting album, actually. I think 50/50 is like that sort of catchy, immediate, probably the standout track. But there's a track in there called The Change, which sounds like the sound. There's a great song called There Was No Time. 3 lines. That does sound like it's got early Cure sort of influences to it. And there's a great song at the end called Imagination, which is really good as well. It's worth, I mean, 80, it is very much of its time. It probably sounds more 80s than the Sound do, actually. But if you can get past that and the sort of obvious 80s vocals, it's a lot of fun. And I think this in particular, that guitar run, when I listen to this, I think, oh, I love that sax. And then the guitar comes in, oh, I love that guitar. And then the sax comes back, oh, I love that sax. Yeah. I can't make my mind up. And he's there in his big overcoat, railing about the threat of Soviet, destruction. I couldn't really care less. Anyway, Rate Your Music, one of the guys in there said that this compilation album, released after the band had originally broken up, containing unreleased alternative songs, does feature a few gems that any post-punk connoisseur should be aware of. Opener 50/50 is easily the best thing here, and one of the best post-punk songs of all time. Slag make terrific use of saxophone on it. The Change is also another winner. It reminds me of something of the sounds from the Lion's Mouth album with its urgent keyboards, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. So let's get into these really complicated lyrics, which he just repeated, I think, most of the time. Natural causes or incineration, old age or too much radiation, a spectacular show, too bad we had to go. 50/50, 50/50, 50/50, the toss of a coin. Which way it's going to go? Sax break. Natural causes or incineration, burial or liquidation, rockets ready to go, a once-in-a-lifetime show. 50/50, 50/50, 50/50, the toss of a coin, which way it's going to go. Sax attack again. Natural causes of incineration, slow death or instant termination. A spectacular show. Too bad we had to go. 50/50, 50/50, 50/50. The toss of the coin, which way it's going to go. You always get this sort of nihilistic worldview from the mixed with like this, mass destruction mixed with a game show attitude. And yet the music, as you quite rightly pointed out, counterbalances is so joyful and sort of, skipping amongst the gravestones listening to this track.
Exactly. Skipping among the gravestones is a great way of putting it because I think at the end of the reaction, as I was kind of like making sense of that or trying to reconcile these two very different things that are coming together to make a song wholly together, is that the music kind of emulates the the way society was moving. Like, yeah, this is happening, but we're too hemmed in with our own lives and having fun and going out to the dance club. And it's the early 80s and, cocaine and dancing and parties. And so it's comparable to like I was saying, like the roaring 20s, like going out, dancing, listening to
Yeah, yeah.
jazz, getting drunk, opium, all this stuff. And then a few years later, the whole bottom falls out and everybody is destitute. And, it's kind of like almost like poking fun at like, meanwhile, society's doing this, the music, and this is the state of things, the lyrics, and it's holding them up against each other, and that's kind of interesting and kind of thoughtful and clever
Mhm.
to do that. So it makes not only do I like it just in general, but it also serves a purpose or makes a larger sense, which I also appreciate if
Yeah, I
that's what
agree.
they were trying to do.
Yeah, I think I said this before, but the 80s was, I think, people talk about their own mental health nowadays, and they certainly didn't talk about it in the 80s, but I think there were general things to worry about in the world quite a bit. I mean, nuclear war and destruction was a very real concern, and it was something that could be seen to actually happen, which I don't think we believe this nowadays really would. Um, in this country in particular, unemployment was really bad, and people were wondering when they leave school if they were ever going to get a job. That was a concern, and then of course you had AIDS coming in, which was just because of ignorance and the lack of coverage. It was just fear um, and confusion for a lot of people for a long time before it was finally sort of cleared up as this is exactly what it entails, and it's not a death sentence, and if you do these things then you'll be all right, and those were really big things in the 80s, and if you're growing up back then it was just like seemed very heavy.
Yeah,
Heavy, man. Yeah,
and
no.
yeah,
And people cope with it though by doing stupid stuff, and and you have these sort of cultures, I think, come out of this sort of clouds hanging over you of doing deliberately stupid or fun things, Yeah, so it's interesting,
yeah,
very
or
interesting.
there's also the those that weren't or weren't affected by some of the things you just underscored, like AIDS and like the plight of the working class at the time, were the people investing and thriving on Wall Street with their rolled
Yeah,
up sports jacket sleeves and their early iterations of cell phones, going out and clubbing at night and, not caring about any of that. And they're probably dancing in clubs, hopped up on drugs, listening to music like this, dancing around. And meanwhile, these lyrics are about a very serious situation that they're ignoring because their stock portfolio just doubled that week or whatever. And it's just, yeah, just
yeah, and
it's
then
just
and their name is Patrick Bateman, yes.
yeah,
um
sure, sure. Or the Wolf of Wall Street, or any of these type of characters. Yeah, exactly.
Twat.
Gordon
Anyway,
Gekko.
right. Yeah, absolutely fucking idiot. To continue the narrative, Slag returned in 1987 with an updated lineup. So original members Allard and Pollard, along with some new members, and they released an album that year called The Mirror Test. Um, Interest grew abroad. The band performed extensively in the Netherlands, Spain, and France, headlined at the Marquee Club in London, released a fourth studio album, Headland, in 1990. In 91, after the release of another album, Treehouse Poetry, their label, Midnight Music, folded and the band split once again. And then 11 years later, they got together and released their sixth album, Melting the Fullness of Time. Um, in 2014, Frontman Allard produced a autobiography of the band called Things We Never Did, The Story of Sad Lovers and Giants. And in 2017, Cherry Red, which is a really good label for this, actually, they issued a 5-disc retrospective box set where the light shines through 1981 to 2017. And then the band actually released their seventh studio album and the first one in 16 years in 2018 called Mission Creep. So, to all intents and purposes, they're still going. And they break up for a bit, and they get back together, and then they do a bit in the Netherlands to get a bit more money, and then they break up again. But anyway, they're still going, bless them. I only really know the first two albums and this compilation.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's decent. It is. It's fun and it's very 80s. But yes, I don't know what the rest of it's like, but
Like
I
at
can
all. Like
imagine.
not only do you not own it, you just haven't heard any yet. Because I was
No,
wondering
I
how,
don't.
because this is so quintessential to
Yeah,
the time
what's
that I
they
was
sound
released. I
like in
wonder what how.
2017? Yeah, what would they
Yeah,
sound like that?
yeah,
Who knows?
exactly.
Perhaps exactly the same. You know, we just don't know.
Would be
Um,
interesting.
but then they got little influences from different places, so it's enough there to kind of just always keep changing if you just
Mhm.
take the influences and run with one more than the other. But yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's not a huge amount out there. They are a bit of a cult band, as you probably guessed.
yeah.
Um, but you know, this, as I say, it's fun. It's worth listening to just to have that experience.
No, it is. It's
Um,
fun. It's an excellent way to describe it. I had a lot of fun listening to it.
yeah, cool. Right, I shall wrap things up. Thank you so much for listening to this, sir, and getting your 80s head on. Folks out there, tell us what you think if you like this. Please hit the like button. Otherwise, um, nuclear war will descend upon us. Um, you see war games, it can happen. Please drop some comments. If you what do you think about this track? Do you know them? Do you know Sad Lovers and Giants or Slag, as Regan and Carter would say? Shut it. Um, yeah, please drop some comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who supports the channel, and your numbers bolster us up and lift us up where we belong, as the phrase goes. That being said, thanks so much for watching. I will see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys. Love lift us up where we